What is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, cloud swing traders? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Hope you guys are feeling good. We got AJ in the house. Good morning to you. Good morning to Amy, Andy, Bill, David. Frank is in the house. Good morning to Wendy. We got Joe, Lauren, Marius. Good morning to you. We got Martina. Good morning. Michelle's in the house. Good morning to you. All my people out in YouTube land, all my lurkers that are just going to sit in the background, not say anything all day. It's okay. I still love you. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. But I hope you guys all had a absolutely fantastic weekend. And Friday, they wait for the bell to close, and then Moodys comes in. They downgrade him. If you go back or you watch the old recording of from Friday on YouTube, the headline that we put is the market about to have a short-term top, and that couldn't have been timed any better. So Wendy says, I bought into the bull dreams and open longs, and now I'm gonna get hosed. Yeah, that's essentially what the market was doing. It was we talked about like the FOMO after that gap up. Now you get all the FOMO people start coming in. This thing is just gonna keep going. It made a ton of sense. Like where we got to, we were calling this 595 zone, 594 and change. Pretty much got right into a resistance. So it was a rug pull. The market has a weird way to have the news kind of just perfectly time out where we are in the technicals. This is why the technicals do play. They do matter. They do play into it, and you're right into that resistance at close, and then they decide to downgrade the U.S. So a couple things. One, obviously, that would take us into higher rates, which the government already has a little bit of an issue paying down some debt. That's why we're here in the first place. But now, as all that debt starts to refinance, most likely you're going to be at higher levels. We'll flip to TLT in a second, but now the government will have to probably borrow at higher rates. That means that the companies, individual companies, all these tech companies that typically have to continue to borrow to stay up with technology, to increase technology, to get better and better. Tech is a generally a riskier place to be, but all of their debt probably will have to go up too. So you have a little bit of risk off in tech, and then some of the safety names, a lot of the dividend names, the Coca-Colas of the world, the MOs, probably even Abivi is probably a little bit different, but those are the guys who right now you have money probably flowing into those sectors. And TLT is getting absolutely killed. So let's go to TLT first, and then we'll flip back to SPY. But TLT is approaching or at 52-week lows for the year. We're sitting back to levels on TLT from October of, I believe, 2023. Yeah, so we're right there. I have a little bit lower to go where we might be able to get some kind of bounce and hopefully some kind of sustainability. That takes us to somewhere around $84. I have 84.04. Otherwise, the low of that move was 82.74, and we'll see. We'll see if these rates get kind of clobbered some more. But I would expect that you have yields going up in because again you still have bonds, one of the safest investments, well technically seen that way in the world. U.S. government has never defaulted on a payment, which is fantastic. But the if you're going to keep lowering the or keep downgrading the U.S. credit rating, then some borrowers might be demanding a little bit of higher rates to get into some of those treasuries. So I don't think the rates go too crazy, but I would expect them to kind of go up a little bit. Wendy says MSTR UNH. Yep. If you guys got some technicals, let me know. Hosta wants to see UNH too. Ray's looking at Apple today. So we'll see. But otherwise, for levels for today, is this the end of the world? It is a gap and go. So that's not a great sign for the bulls. The one good sign for bulls is maybe we could hold into these levels. I believe pre-market we were below some of them. So the fact that we kind of came back, all the stock market crackheads are just buying everything up because it's a red candle. You're down slightly. But we'll see how strong they are. Otherwise, I'm looking for some kind of a decent support, pretty big support, 587.94. If we're opening below that, I think we open and flush. Otherwise, we might hang out in the zone for a little bit. We'll see. And then we'll see if we can kind of continue to hold that. Or if we start breaking above 589.10, then this is probably going to act a little bit more of a sticky drop, not do it as quickly, and maybe get a retest eventually to 593.04. That would give everybody opportunities to buy those puts, get that protection if we can get up there. Otherwise, we'll see where we open. I think that's going to be the most important thing. But anything below 587, 79, that gap and go, I think takes full effect, and we start to flush a little bit heavier at open. So we will see. But the gap and go is clearly there on the chart. We are definitely, I mean, we've got evidence already of some people going bullish Friday or this at least later in the week. Qs. Uh, Qs look weaker than SPY. We're below every little support. Again, tech probably gets hit a little bit. The question is, when does the buy the dipper start really coming back in? There will be a certain point. It could take some days though. It might not be immediate. For the Qs, you probably have some support resistance that should have been there, a big one at 516.57. I don't know if this one gets bid up at open, but if we get some bulls to buy this thing up, watch that 516.27 zone, somewhere around there, 516.57. That might be your resistance for today. And I think that'd be a really interesting spot to look to go short or buy get some protection. And then we got targets down to like 506.86, so it's a long way down. We'll see how this one opens, but this I think Qs are a little bit more suspect to open and drop. But we'll see. Uh, the gift that the market give us would be if we could rally into this 516.57 first, and then give some of the bulls, some of those people that chased last couple days a chance to get out, and then I think a retest. And then again, longer term, 506.86. If we can't hold that one, you have some levels down here. Maybe like a little double bottom look for 502.62. Otherwise, we're looking to eventually close that gap, I think, and then start to push again. But so far, just hanging out. Qs do look a little bit tougher. Bitcoin had a good weekend. You would expect crypto or at least Bitcoin to kind of hold up because again, if the US government does start to default and then we get into some economic issues. That's kind of why Bitcoin was created to protect your money from maybe government shutdowns and things like that. So you did have a good pop. This one came in on Sunday. Right now, though, we're not looking too good anymore in Bitcoin. We're still up there. We're still good longer term. I think you're still fine, but you don't really want to see that big breakout. Looking really, really positive. I even started getting some texts of like Bitcoin's at 107, it's going crazy, and then now you have a bearish engulfing candle. So big level on this one. It could still come down a little bit more. We're already starting to break some support. I think you're looking to hold maybe about 101, 280. We'll see if we can hold that and then get a bounce. Otherwise, if we can't, then we have Bitcoin back to under 100K. 97,025 would be my target for that one, but we'll see. Right now, this candle still closed. If we get some buyers coming in, get us a close anywhere below above 103, 142 would still look decent, but it is showing a little bit of sign of some weakness right now, which is pretty fascinating. MSTR MicroStrategy is still hanging out above some of those moving averages. Again, watch Bitcoin on this one. This one's had a big move already. If we see a little bit of a pullback, we get some profit taking from the just for the fact we're above 100K in Bitcoin, that might affect MicroStrategy. That might show some weakness. But you have a gap and go for today, just because it was a green candle, there was some buyers that came in. Otherwise, it looks like to me we're starting to trend down a little bit. With the next support on this one, so we're around 383.79. So, and opening into a good resistance. See if you get a high wave candle. I kind of like it to the downside. I wouldn't be super, super bearish on it quite yet because Bitcoin just did put in a relatively good run and it's just taking some profits now. And then you have some moving averages trying to catch up. So, uh, tight move, but probably 383. That gives you about $9 to the downside. It's not a huge move on MSTR. It could do some wild things. And then if we break that, you got 380.57. So see if you get a little chop, or I think probably, I don't know. This is a good zone here. I was if we could get it up to short 399.90, that might be a decent play. A better opportunity at least to short if you want to. Otherwise, even if you get into that point, now you have to get back through here, break down, and it's a little bit of a stickier process. So could be a little all over the place on this one. UNH. So the good news, for me at least, is I did buy the dip. I got it at like 265-ish. Pretty far off the low. Does this one start reversing and coming back? No, I don't know. And then on Friday, I did throw in a trade. It was like later in the day. It was a good setup, and it just worked perfectly with some news that came into UNH. So we'll see if the bottom is in, but they were giving me a little bit of. This is probably. I think it was around here. Yeah, so I think I did something like this where I had got a little bit of a hammer, good volume that started to pile in on this little sell off. They gave me a red candle. I think I took the break above it, stops the low. So I had the targets for three R's. I ended up chickening out. I got like a 2.3 or something like that. But the news that came out with this one, which I wasn't expecting, I was just kind of playing the technicals. It kind of worked out. Was the CEO was buying some shares. So you have some insider buys. That's a good sign for the market. It is also relatively cheap. When it was down there, it was like 11 times earnings, which is cheap as it's been in a while. Day trade wise, be careful for today. I think you have your first target somewhere around 312. I think pre-market we got up to like 310, so not too far off. And then another big level is about 318.67. This is a pretty big retest gap opening into resistance. I would expect probably a little bit of a pullback on this one. It is doing something different than the rest of the market. The rest of the market obviously down. Nice little gap up on this one. But I think if you get the opportunity where it pulls back to 275.81, that might be a spot to establish some type of trade or just a little too high. Otherwise, if you start getting candles 318.67, you might have to chase it a little bit. But then I think you're looking for that gap fill. So longer term, we'll see. The story on UNH, I don't think is over. I think there's still a bunch of issues, a bunch of concerns. It is a good sign when the CEO buys. I think it was like $1 million or something. I don't know the exact number, but decent buying from insiders, always a good thing. And then you have a really nice close on Friday where this previous day, Thursday, was very strong volume, and you did start to get above it. So see if there's some pullbacks. I think buying some pullbacks even as a day trade. I can't do it at open, but if it does want to pull back a little bit, I think there could be definitely a lot of room in this. So we'll keep it up there. The other one, just while I'm on my trading view chart, somebody pulled up or somebody mentioned STZ. I forget who it was on Friday. So he had this one on the list. We were looking at it. Beautiful looking gap up. It did a perfect retest right into support. And now we're not outside of Friday's candle quite yet, but there's a good looking hammer. Great retest from Friday. I think you have room probably into at least the opening of this candle. So that would take us to like 203. That's a decent amount of room. It does fit under it's a little bit more safety play. So while I think tech might struggle today, I think some of the uh, safety dividend type setups, I think will potentially be a good play for today. We'll see how it pans out. But and then you have room to 200 at 207.19. So if we get there today, that's about a $9 move higher. But you start to see a little bit of this momentum starting to come in. So I will be watching STZ as well, see if there's a trade somewhere there for us. HIMS, HIMS, HIMS and hers. We got gap down. I don't want to I don't want to stand in the face of retailers who just buy this thing up like crazy. That being said, this is a very interesting short location. So nice close, looked good. Everything looked healthy, getting above the 62.56. The one big concern, obviously, is you hit your first little resistance 3 days ago, 3 trading days ago. And then I think your next target on this one to the bull case is 69.83. The fact that we are gapping down after a very strong close, and also more importantly, is where we got to on this one. I think you have resistance around 62.10. Your target to the downside probably takes you back in that 57.69. We did technically already hit that one, so maybe slightly easier to break down, and then you're probably looking for like 55.25. But it doesn't look like it's like completely weak, obviously, with that run. And again, if there's a red candle somewhere, there's the buy dippers coming in. But that does look like a very interesting short to me. I think you have a potential for decent risk reward, especially if you get an opening candle that pops into like 62.21. I think that would be pretty phenomenal. And then especially if it's like a sell off, blow off top, reversal candle, something like that, that might give you enough to take this one short. But You're fighting the Bulls. The Bulls are relentless in this one, but it has had a good move. It is down a little bit, and then the location I like on that one. So we'll see how that one plays out, Bill. We got Tesla. Tessie, also a little bit of a struggle bus at open, down more than the market is pulling back. Another stock that just ran almost. Well, did we? We got very close. So I would have had the next kind of resistance from around 352.45. We started getting into that 351 zone, so we didn't quite get up there yet. However, today's gap not that great. Pretty good close on Friday. If you were bullish, you're feeling good into the close. Today, market opens, you are trapped. Let me see where the next. I do still have this alert for 335.39 on my chart. There is a little support there. I'm not sure if we get held up there or not. If this is just too powerful, you're taking out essentially 3 days of bullish buys. Technically, this other candle was the retest into it. But now this support might be a little bit easier to break. However, we haven't really hit it yet. So yeah, if this one comes up to like 342.61, I think it's a good spot to short. Otherwise, that open, I probably have to wait, see what happens, see if that 333 finds some buyers. Otherwise, if it doesn't, you still have room. So I don't think you have to get too aggressive. But I think you still have some room then down to like 322.62. So watch what happens. If you get a little bit of a bounce, maybe get short underneath that first bounce for your next target into this lower three, about 323, we'll call it. But somewhere in that range would look decent. Otherwise, if you get short the highest possible, even to the bull case, maybe run to like 337.85. But it doesn't look strong today. It definitely looks weak. Again, how is today going to close on a lot of these stocks is going to be important to know how much of a how much buy the dippers are still out there after the run that we just put in the last few weeks. You would expect even with the downgrade, you're still kind of looking at we went crazy. Maybe a pullback is a little well deserved and healthy for the market, and this might just be enough of a reason. The other thing too is I, I don't know if you guys know, but Trump, the guy who's the president right now, he watches a lot of TV, specifically news. I think he does pay attention to the stocks, and it would be a good time or an interesting time. The fact that the market's down a little bit to start rolling out some tweets or some truths about maybe new deals that could just make the market kind of forget about a downgrade and start rolling from there. I don't know, just saying. Could be an interesting day for that to happen. He is pretty attuned to the to the media of what they're saying. First of all, this is a pretty nasty gap down. That looks rough. It is a retest gap technically from Friday. However, all of those candles for the most part just stayed in that bullish breakout. So if you were bullish getting in there on May 13th, you kind of got a little annoyed from the stocks, but you never really broke down that candle. Today looks a little bit rougher. Again, how much room do we have? I have a lower target down to 151.11. That would essentially close the gap. Do we hit that today? I don't know. I don't think so. I think you should be running into some. You still probably have a quick trade to the downside, but I'll be looking for like 167.59, and then you got your 200 EMA even a little bit higher than that, 168.83. So I think it comes down. I think you have some room on it. We did take this one for a day trade. I forget if it was Friday or Thursday, but one of those days we had a nice little short on this one. Today, I think is a little bit different. I'd see if maybe some retests. We did have 2 days of selling. See if this one could get bought up a little bit higher. That might be into like 174.43. That could give you better opportunities. Otherwise, I'd be very concerned getting in here to go short for just to run into some resistance, a couple $4.50 lower, something like that. So we'll see. If this one gets bid up, though, I think it'd be on the list of short. I think there is some bulls trapped, but I would need some buying first to get into it. We'll get this one higher on the list. We shall see. Let's get that there. Okay. Baba. I saw Baba was gapping down a little bit. Got Baba and PayPal. Um, Again, retest gap from Friday, technically Thursday as well. Also opening at a support. I don't think the Moody's downgrade really affects Baba, but they did have earnings, which was a slight miss in both directions. Um, Maybe here's okay. I'd be cautious at open, but if you get a good high wave candle, that might be a good play. Somewhere around 120.49, you want to stay above that. Otherwise, if it does break, you do have a little bit of consolidation from essentially April 23rd all the way to April 30th. So about 7 days of candles that should provide a little support. The spot you really don't want to see breakdown on this one is about 117.83. That would signify to me there's really no bulls hanging around, and this one probably gets a bigger pullback to potentially levels of like 108.30. But right here you have a little chop. You are opening at support. Technically the retest gap. If I was to take a stab, I would say probably a fade higher on this one. And then if that is the case, you have nothing really stopping to about 123.39. So again, not a huge move, but there is some room to work, especially if we get a high wave candle on a 3 minute, 5 minute candle out of the gate for Baba. That might be enough for us to take some kind of a play. And I'd probably stick bullish rather than bearish at this point. And then if it breaks down, we'll have to see if there's some more sideways chop from that 7 day sideways trading period. PayPal, this one's a gap and go. Oh, I'm moving things around, not sure why. Oh, no, I'm moving everything around. There we go. PayPal. Yeah, that doesn't look good. That is a rejection of the 200, so bull's not strong enough to get through that. You're into a little support, but even that support, I would have liked to see hold somewhere around 71.12. Next support to the downside, you got about $70.58. The big one on this one, I think support should be $70.31. If that breaks, I think you probably have room back to like 68.53. So a little bit of a tight range on this one, but I'd watch it for the next couple days. I don't see anything too crazy that I'd have to day trade this one today. Or if this one gets bid up instead of dropping, maybe there's an opportunity to get some insurance if you have PayPal shares, something like that. But your real spot, watch for 72 to the high side. So if you want to take it short for a swing, as long as you don't get anything really breaking the 72, you should be okay with the short side of that one. And if it does break 72, I'd close those shorts and be rather long on PayPal. Meta. Oh, let me get some lines off the charts. Let's see. Gap down on Meta. Tech stock. The Mag 7 tech stocks, I don't know how. I mean, right now, Meta looks pretty short again, opening to here. The rate cut doesn't affect the bigger like Mag 7 companies as much, so they're all dipping a little bit today. Even some of the chips are getting hit, but they have cash. Cash. If you have cash, I don't. Your credits. If you have $3 billion sitting in your bank account, and then they're trying to tell you that you have a bad credit score, you're like, I don't really care. I don't really care too much that my credit score is bad because I'm not going to use it. All right. Meta has that position. Apple has that position. Nvidia has that position. Even Tesla has a bunch of money in the bank. It could affect the overall businesses in terms of like the smaller companies that might have to do the advertising with Meta, things like that. But I think some of these smaller tech companies, the growing tech companies, they probably take a heavier hit than some of these big guys. Other than that, it's not a good looking open for Meta. You are hanging into a little bit of support if we could open here 620, 684. We're about 3 cents lower than that. It is a gap and go, but technically even that candle from Friday was a retest on it. To the downside, I'm not sure. I think your final target on this one would take me to about 608.71 with a resistance before it 616.13. So it's still going to be almost a $15 move for yeah, a little less than 15, $13 move, something like that to the downside. Just running to that first resistance, and then I think you got the 607.88. But so I'd see if this one acts a little bit more. See if that some temporary support holds. I think you're going to go try to short this one, which is probably the correct direction. See if you get to like the 635.09 first. That would get you a much better risk reward on this one. At this point, we've been to this low already on Friday. This is a spot easy to break down or easier to break down. And then you'd be probably comfortable if you could short higher, or if you start hitting those little temporary levels, you're still up a decent amount on the trade. But yeah, looks a little bit to the shorter side. Coinbase, another one that's probably going to be following close to Bitcoin, which Still a massive run. They are being added. This one, the levels look fine where it looks like it might hold. But I believe they're being added today to the S&P. We've already run up on the rumor or the news, I guess, and then today's the official day. I've been saying that I think Coinbase on the day they get added to the S&P is probably a little bit of a sell-off. Not for any other reason than that people just already bought this thing up. So right now it's not really giving me it is selling off with the rest of the market. It's not giving me huge like, oh, we got to get into this thing because it's still holding some support in here. I think anything past this 254.18 for day trade becomes tough, but for a swing, you might see that little bit of a bigger pullback back into that 200 EMA. Would make a lot of sense, but it's selling today. I don't think specifically because of Bitcoin. I don't think specifically because I think it's more just overall market down. But I'd be watching this one if I could find a short somewhere. Preferably again higher. 262.21 would be fantastic. And then 265.72 would be an interesting resistance for it, but we'd have to. The Bulls are still kind of back in control, and now you got a whole lot more to kind of get through. So this one should definitely be on the watch list for today, just to see if there is any more continuation to the downside. Right now, I'd be kind of indifferent, slightly leaning to the bear side. But if I can find a bearish play on this one, I'd just trying to go off the news a little bit. All right, we got AMD. AMD is looking kind of short too. Again, 3 days of selling, 3 days of red candles at least. I think I'm gonna try to short, see if this one gets up to like 115.93. You're not at your support yet. The support is 114.18. We did hit that support. That is easy to break down, and I think you got this gap fill on the agenda. So my target would be 112.58. So from open, that's decent, but I think if you come in a little bit higher, come in closer to 115.93 would be a better spot. So let's probably give this market a minute or two to shake out a little bit. But there's a couple names that I do like so far. But let's even see if we get better pricing on some of the shorts. Otherwise, we might be into where something looks good in the first 5 minutes. There's a trap, reverses, and then the original play would have worked. Uh, Lily just kind of hanging out for now. If Lily starts getting above 755.77, I think that's a good potential for a breakout into like 776.15. But for right now, inside day, still impressive that you have we're opening at the moment above 750.85. We want to stay above that one. Other than that, that is the morning bell. Diana says, hold on, Amazon. We'll take a look at Amazon. That is gap down, a little bit of a retest gap for the moment. Otherwise, I think it looks like it probably has a little bit more room. Yeah, that's a short spot. I think it short into like 199.42. Other than that, YouTube, you guys have been absolutely incredible. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe buttons. And unfortunately, I got to disconnect.